All right, Sober Stories family, I would love to give the listeners a cliff note of Jyoti. Tell us the story of you, who you are, and then kind of any of the relevant high notes.
Okay, I am Jyoti Chand, also known as Mamajotes in the Instagram world. I am a content creator and an author, a full-time stay-at-home mom. And I feel like I can't use that one anymore though, because like I'm home with them, but they are starting preschool soon, and it's going to be a whole new world for us in just like a couple weeks here.
Mm,
Um, and I'm in. Did I say I'm based in Chicago? I'm based in
okay.
Chicago. I'm born and raised in LA. And yeah, I'm not a winter person. And I am
But you live in
sober. I am,
Chicago.
no, I'm moving. I can't do it. It's
Yeah.
insane. I don't know how people do it. Um, I am, yeah, and I'm sober. I'm sober from January 3rd, 2021, which is
Hmm.
really exciting. Over 1 year. Never thought
Yes.
that was possible. And it is, and it's changed my life. And it
Yeah.
is all correlated. My life has changed so much since January of 2021. My career has fully taken off. I finished writing my book that I've been trying to write forever. I got a lit agent. I got a publishing house. I grew my audience times like exponentially. And it's just been truly living a dream here, a sober
Doing
dream.
all the things. Yeah, doing all the things now that you have gotten you've removed this from your life. So you mentioned you had a couple of kids that are about to be in preschool. I have a 3 and a 6-year-old. So I think you might be my first also parent podcast. And it is a whole different world being a sober parent, being in like especially that early age with those kids when they're so adorable, but also so much work. And it's just a lot all
So
at once.
much.
A lot of noise, a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. So I definitely want to get into that in a little bit. But give us a little bit more of a background about you and alcohol. What did that look like? What was your removing it from your life and kind of how it all began?
Yeah, so I never really had like a positive relationship with alcohol. I think I started drinking really early in life. I think I had my first like Smirnoff situation at 14, and then 15 I had my first hard alcohol situation
Hmm.
already, and it kind of just was a downward spiral from there. I had a lot of alcohol
Mm,
induced trauma in my teen years and in my adolescent years, a lot of blacking out, a lot of partying, binge drinking, but it was also kind of seen as the norm in
yeah.
college. Like it wasn't like anybody was like, oh my God, you have a problem. You like can't
Hmm.
walk home after you drink alcohol. We have to carry you. It was funny. It was fun. I was fun. I was fun, and like I fit in. I
Yeah.
fit in. And that was a really big reason for alcohol for me, was to fit in. I never
Mm,
really felt like I fit in high school. I was very like nerdy, big backpack kind of girl, like they,
hmm.
Indian family in a very non-Indian town. And
Mm,
finally got in with this, in college, got this Indian crowd and fit in. Everyone was
hmm.
doing it. So, um, then college ended and I was still drinking like
Yeah.
I was in college, which is super fun. So party, 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 drink, drink, drink. A lot of just like bad decision making, all blame
Hmm.
it on the alcohol. A lot
I
of
mean, they have like
like
whole
stuff.
songs about that. Blame it
Yeah.
on the alcohol.
Blame it on the alcohol.
Yeah.
So like, honestly, it was, looking back, it was a hot mess. Okay. It was a hot mess. And there was a lot of stuff I just wasn't dealing with. And in that
Mm,
time, like I had anxiety, I had depression, I had terrible relationships. And just my relationship with alcohol in general just got worse. And then when I finally met my husband and moved, things got a little bit better with my relationship. But I realized that and it took me years to realize this, but I would turn to alcohol in times of high emotion or low emotion.
mm,
And it was never just like to enjoy a drink, it was to get drunk. And I think that's where it really like started standing out to me in motherhood. And
mm.
motherhood was the turning point. Just kind of like there's some major regrets I have. And one of them is drinking while breastfeeding.
Mm.
Every doctor told me that it was okay. Um, but I look back and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why did I feel the need? Like the first thing I did after I had a baby was like drink alcohol. Like,
Mhm.
why was that it? Like I had to wait 9 months. Like it was like itching.
Yeah.
So the first time I tried to quit alcohol was 2019.
Mhm.
It only stuck for a month. I was really proud of myself. And I was like, I guess if I could quit for a month, nothing's wrong with me.
Yeah, I'm
Went
good.
back
I'm
to
good.
drinking. I'm good. I cannot drink for a month. I'm fine. But right when I went back to it, it was back to like that daily glass of wine, that like
Mm,
nightcap, that going out and over drinking and feeling like crap, making poor decisions, not being like having a watchful eye on my kids. Like, luckily, my husband doesn't drink alcohol. And so he was like always like the parent.
mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so then, again, 2020, like I thought about it, never dived in because it seemed too difficult to quit alcohol and it seemed stupid to do so at
In
that time.
2020 especially.
I was like, why would I quit? But 2020 accentuated my drinking.
Yeah.
Going into pandemic, I was alone and drinking. And I think that's when it just like hit. Like I
Mm,
felt like crap. My anxiety was high. I was not sleeping well. I was lashing out. Like it was just not who the person I wanted to be.
mm,
And so I went into dry January with the intention of trying it out to see how it would feel at the end of dry January. Let's do another month of
yeah.
cleansing. And after I saw like how I felt, I think it just was like personal growth as well.
Mm,
From 2019 to 2021, there's just a lot that like personal growth that happened during quarantine. I was just like, I can never drink again. I don't
mm.
like who I am under the influence of alcohol. I don't like the kind of parent I am, and I don't like the wife that I just don't like myself when I'm drinking. And I think that I've learned to love myself so much that I'm not even going to allow myself to like go there, you
Mm.
know?
And tell me more about what you experienced on the other side of it.
Okay, so clarity is like the first thing I will say. So I read so January 3rd, January 2nd, I started reading Holly's book. It took me
Yep.
one day into Holly's book, Quit Like a Woman. If you haven't read it, it's like very, very good. It took me one day into it to be like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try this. Then I finished it and I was like, mind blown.
Yeah.
All these different plants. Obviously, we've heard it before, but when you
Yeah.
hear it in a 2 day period, all of it at once, you're just like, oh my gosh, like what am I
Mhm,
doing?
mhm.
And then, there was so many, it was first, the reason was, oh, to detox. Then there were so many other underlying reasons why why I was like, I don't need to drink alcohol.
Mm,
So afterwards, I was sleeping better.
mhm.
My skin was better. My wedding ring is loose because
Yeah.
I don't have any bloated fingers.
Yeah.
I will tell you that my bloat has gone down dramatically after quitting alcohol. Um, my focus, I had started a morning routine. I wake up and I write. I wrote a book. Like
Yeah.
I literally
Yeah.
wrote a book
No big deal, just
in
wrote a whole
3
book.
months. Yeah, just wrote a book. Got a book deal. No big deal. My creative brain is so
Mm,
much better sober. I
yeah.
feel like it goes so much further. I'm more sober productive. Sober productivity is real. I'm
Mhm.
very productive. And because I have all this time now. I feel like I have so much time that I was able to gain back because I'm not spending it with a glass of wine and then like getting
Yeah.
too tipsy to do anything productive. Do I
Mm.
relax? Yes, I still relax. I still chill, but it looks different now.
Right.
It's reading a book, taking a bath, watching my favorite show. Um, yeah, so the aftermath of it, and the best part of sobriety is being a conscious parent.
Mm,
Like I have been 100% conscious for my children, and to the point where I've like questioned decisions that I made before as a parent, where like, you have friends come over and you get like drunk off of like your, 4 glasses of wine, your glasses
mhm.
of wine. I say that
Yeah.
because you fill the glass up to the
Yeah.
top.
It's really like a
Um,
bottle and a half. Yeah.
a bottle and a half of wine, and what if like my brain now
Yeah.
goes, what if something had happened in the middle of the
Yeah.
night back then and I couldn't drive or
Mhm.
I didn't wake up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like there's a lot of like little regrets, but I'm just also grateful that like I got to this point.
Well, I'm like over here scribbling down so many things because you and I talked before we started recording this, but I have not spoken with a lot of parents in this space yet on sober stories, and so much of what you said really with me and my own experience of young children, of parenthood, of like you say, and it's so interesting when you step outside of it and you start to have those what ifs, or thank God there wasn't an emergency in the middle of the night, or how crazy is it that we are like doing the math on how much we've had to drink and and if we need to pump and dump, and then we lose this breast milk, which is like a commodity. If anybody's ever nursed a baby, you know that like you do cry over spilt milk. Experience that we are just completely sacrificing in the name of drinking whatever substance our drink of choice is. And it really becomes the focal point of the experience versus, I mean, early parenthood, especially with babies, is already hard enough. And we make this so much harder. But one of the things that really stuck out to me when you were talking was this idea of like, you just had difficulty liking yourself. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. You know, a lot of people go into this quote unquote quintessential rock bottom. They don't necessarily have this bad, ugly experience that is their come to Jesus moment where they say, okay, I have drinking. Instead, it's all of like these little cuts or these small experiences or kind of a lifetime of just feeling ill, feeling unwell, but so you know the mental health component that is wrapped into this. And for myself, similar experience. My rock bottom was telling myself in the middle of the night one night that I hated myself. And I had just lost so much of my own self-worth through the through the continued use of this substance, through the continued disappointment in myself, where I just, like you said, would drink a glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine every night and then just couldn't keep any promises to myself. But the other piece that I really loved that you said is like your creative brain and this productivity brain. Tell us more about what it has been like as a creative, as somebody who creates content, writes words, has a very public platform, what your experience has been like in this shift from before you were drinking to now.
Okay. I mean, it's like night and day. I
Mm.
was the first thing that went up is consistency. I
Mm.
was consistent before, but and it was doing. I was consistent in this of showing up, but I
Yeah.
think I showed up in a different way, and I think I wasn't fully always coming as like my full self. Like there wasn't
Mm.
that confidence there that there is now. I think I got more confident with sobriety because I'm not dependent on alcohol to like make me less myself. I'm
Mm.
like, all right, this is me. This is who I am. I'm going out like this. This is it. Um, Creative wise, like obviously the productivity went up. So I'm having a lot more ideas rushing through. I'm never like, out of my mind in any way that like,
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? Like there's just, I have a clear
Totally.
head. I have a clear head. And that clear head is consistently clear. They say that like, okay, this is like side piece, but like if you do like a lot of like moon magic or like
Mm-hmm.
spell magic and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, if you had alcohol within 72 hours, your
Mm.
third eye is not clear.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of clarity in that
Mm.
aspect spiritually, as being sober, like, and not drinking the substance and not having a dependency on the substance.
Mm.
Um, so I feel like everything is elevated, like even
Mm-hmm.
my spirituality and my manifestation and like everything I put forth into that has become so much more powerful,
Mm.
and which leads to a lot more success. I know that's like so woo woo
No,
for some people to hear, but like it's just who I am.
that
Okay.
is also who I am too. So there's no problem with that. I'd love to dig into that. And you know, the reason I asked about the creativity is because I this misconception or like this like historical understanding of creatives, of artists, of writers, of people who create, who are creative as like a lot of them have substance issues. Like if you look
Yeah.
historically, so many of them have mental health, they have substance issues, but there's this kind of idea of linking like the loss of inhibitions through substance use with unlocking creativity and unlocking our creative brain. And we have this perception, but then I see on the other side, I see the complete opposite of that. I see so many people rediscover their or discover for the first time that they are actually creative. And I believe that everybody is an inherently a creative person. But there's so many people
I
that will say like,
agree.
oh no, I'm not when we remove this substance, it suddenly unlocks so much potential and so much of our, you know, we have our left brain and our right brain, and so many different juices start flowing when we are finally not putting a nervous system depressant into our system. So go figure, surprise, surprise there. But I would love to your spirituality and kind of that woo-woo stuff that you mentioned and what that has looked like you quit drinking since you brought it up.
Yeah, I since I brought it up. Oh my
Mhm.
god, you can just see all the spirituality on me. I got, like, third eyes all over
Yeah.
me, little evil eyes, I mean, and then, like, everywhere. Um, so I love moon magic. It's something I've been
Mm,
so, passionate about from my mid-20s and manifesting and all of that, and I feel like there is just a clearer path for me. It was a little more jumbled before. I would do certain things and sometimes I would have a glass of wine and do my moon magic and nothing was as clear as it is now. And,
yeah.
I learned that from, that you're fogging your brain up when
Yeah.
you're using a substance. And so you're not going to have that same ability to like manifest or even do it's like I'm trying to think. I know people think this is so woo woo, but like do magic. There's
Yeah.
literally you can do magic,
Yeah.
people. I'm telling you, it's
Yeah.
real. It's real.
Well, and what you said earlier, I think no, I agree with you 1,000%. And what you said earlier about the power that comes from removing alcohol, I also completely ascribe to. I think that we always have this narrative of like I is not personally aligned with the 12 steps, but there's this thought of we are less over alcohol. But
Yeah.
it's my opinion that we are really powerful for having decided to change our relationship with the substance or even taken the big heavy lift that is changing our relationship with this substance and the power and like the magnetism and the just like that come with that experience, I think
Yeah. The
really
power to say
changes.
no.
Yeah. And I think that it's counterculture. It is something that
It
is
is
not
counterculture.
it's not the norm. And all of this really has this ripple effect. And I was so curious to ask you this because I, prior to getting sober, didn't really consider myself spiritual or religious or anything like that, and have found my own iteration of that as well. And I think
Yeah.
that there's just something to be said about really connecting to your intuition and really connecting to kind of like all of these bigger moving parts at the same time with all of this clarity, without numbing it out,
What's
without having.
Yeah, and what's so crazy is, like, my intuition and my inner gut was telling me I was supposed to be sober. I have literally once I got a new Kindle recently, and I had an old Kindle a long time ago in 2015, and so when I downloaded my Kindle, all these
Mm,
books downloaded on there, and it was all sobriety books, and I don't even remember
interesting.
diving into sobriety in 2015, but I had, and it's like my mind had been telling me to go there so many times, and my intuition
Mm,
was like crying to the
mm,
point where when I finally did it and I was finally able to hold it, like I've never felt more confident than anything than saying that I will never drink alcohol again in my
mm,
life.
mm.
So
Well, and isn't that so interesting talking about 2015 and what you said too, that you had a month where your present sobriety. And I think that's really important for people to hear because when they see somebody like you or somebody in the sober space celebrate sobriety, what they don't see behind that is all of the day ones. They don't see reading Quit Lit in 2015, 7 years ago. They don't see that you had a month left, then started again, or like however long ago. Math's hard,
yeah.
but yeah, of how long it takes our brains to really chew on this idea of okay, I actually can live without this. So tell us a little bit more about like that longer process, kind of that longer timeline for you before you were ever fully sober.
Yeah. I feel like how many times have we gotten, like, wasted or how many times have I gotten wasted and then waking up the next day and go, "I'm never drinking again,"
Mhm,
or
mhm,
have hangover anxiety for, like, weeks
mm,
on end, sometimes even longer. Like, I've had, like I said, alcohol-induced trauma, things that, like, you totally regret doing while drunk, like, will follow you for so long, and you just drink to numb it. Like, you just, like, keep
yeah,
going in this, like, vicious cycle. So I think I started exploring sobriety pretty mid-20s, I would
mhm,
say, in the sense of, like, quit lit and just, like, hearing about it, and then, like, started following some accounts, but I was that kind of person who would, like, follow it, wanna do it, couldn't do it, and then would unfollow it and be like, "They suck."
No, literally,
Like,
I did that
you
so many
suck.
times. I did
Yeah,
that so many
like,
times.
I would literally be like, "Oh my god, this person's amazing that they're able to do this," and then I'd be like, "You're so judgy, you little bitch, you
Yeah,
suck."
yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm
totally.
saying? Because it was so
I
I
do.
was internalizing their sobriety so hard that, like, I was offended that, like, they thought taking wine to the park was not okay. Like, how could that not be okay? Like, I do it all the time. Like, I take wine kayaking, like, whatever. So I think it took me a while to realize that I was inviting alcohol into every aspect of my life, including
Mm,
parenthood.
mm,
And um, it was everywhere. And I couldn't celebrate, even though it wasn't to the extent of like getting wasted at the park. Like, how come I couldn't just like have a play date without champagne or like a
well, that
brunch
idea,
without a mimosa?
yeah. Inviting alcohol into everything, I think is that phrase really resonates with me and really sticks out to me, and how culturally conditioned we are to invite it everywhere, to have it be a part of everything. And even what is socially acceptable for us to have alcohol at now is different than it was a decade ago. I remember the
Yeah,
first time I started seeing it like pop up at baby showers and stuff.
I know.
And we don't realize just how insidious it is. And even if it's like you said, we're not getting drunk and wasted every time, but we also without it, and we also don't know how to socialize without it or celebrate without it or mourn without it, and it just becomes so habitual. And I'm
But it's a
curious to
drug. It's literally an accepted drug. It's like the one drug people are like, "What? You don't do this drug? What's wrong with you? Why don't you do drugs with us?" And I was that person. I was the
Yeah,
person who was like, "Why don't you drink? What's wrong
yeah,
with you?" Like, and so I 100% empathize with the people who say that about me because I'm like, I
yeah,
get it. I know where you're at right now.
yeah.
And so,
Well, and it's our own choices to be sober are such a mirror for other people's own relationships with alcohol, and it's exactly what you said about following and unfollowing the sober accounts of we see it and we feel like we can access it, and then when we decide not to access it, then our denial, self-protection, all of these pieces is like, well, that's a crazy thing that they're doing. How dare they do that? And I think a lot of people can really relate to this idea of like, that is, I can't even touch that because part of it hurts my spirit and that it my defense mechanisms are up, my doubt is up, and then we start questioning whether or not we're able to do it. But one of the things I want to talk about is in addition to my also run the Sober Desi, which is an
yeah.
Instagram account for women of the Desi diaspora. So I would love to know a kind of your experience within your own culture and what you see
Yeah.
in the Desi culture, specifically for women, and just any thoughts you have on that in relation to alcohol.
Yeah, so I think that like culturally, we don't talk about a lot of taboo or stigma topics. We haven't, at least in generations prior. So now, like I didn't even know. I put myself out there as a sober desi early on, not even knowing if there was going to be other desis that
Mm,
like felt this way, this like cultural, like this like the societal pressure to like fit in and drink alcohol and do all these things. Um, and so when I finally did, and I have to be like transparent, I haven't been as active on there as I wanted to be in the last month or so, just because of all the travel and trying to keep up with the Mamajotes side. But we're still there. It's just, there's going to definitely be a lot more happening on that page because I have received so much good feedback from the community about like, we needed this. This is what we
mm,
needed. Yes, like women. Some people have asked, like, oh my God, we need a male account. We need more for men on here. Like, there's a lot of men going through this, or like women telling me, thank you for helping me become sober, or just showing that it was
mm,
okay for someone who looks like me to feel like they have a problem with alcohol. And like you
mhm,
said, it's not always this rock bottom situation that we see in the media. Like there's a lot more ways that addiction looks, that everyone's addiction looks so different. And to call it that, like a year ago, I couldn't even call it that. I couldn't even say I had a problem. I was like, I'm just choosing to be sober. But looking
mm,
back now, like I had a problem with alcohol.
yeah,
Like I didn't have a good relationship with it. I was dependent on it. And there's other people in my community that feel the same way, that didn't feel like they could even like explore this realm of sobriety or feel so confident with it, at least. Like, even if they were exploring it, there wasn't that confidence behind it where they were doing the right thing or the right thing for them, because there just wasn't anyone else who looks like them that was talking about it. And so now there's like several of us, sober thissies.
Mm.
And there's like people like, I don't drink, I've never drank. And then there's people who's like, I stopped drinking because it wasn't good for me. And there's people who like, I have an addiction and I don't want to even go there. And
Mm.
so it's just nice to hear people just saying their own reasoning and their own like experience with it without
Well, and what
feeling
you
like they're going
said,
to be judged.
well, and what you said about seeing somebody who looks like you, I think of it, being able to see your own lived experience reflected in somebody else and see them living in a way that feels like it's more aligned with you. And and truly that's, one of the ethoses of what we're doing here is
Yeah.
telling stories, telling different stories, telling diverse stories so that somebody can listen to this and hear themselves in your story, in my story, in somebody else's story. Because unless we can see the possibility of it, it makes it really hard for our brains to wrap our heads around the idea. Oh, maybe I could do this really counterculture thing, or maybe I could do this thing that is objective, pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that I find so powerful. The account you run and the community that y'all are building over there, and I know Nikita Meta as well, and this space that y'all hold for
I love
people.
her.
I do too, Nikita. I hope you're listening to
Can
this.
we
She's
just
one
give
of my
like a shout out to Nikita?
yeah. I hope she's listening to this. She's one of my favorite. But the space y'all hold for people who, as somebody in the sober community is objectively very white, and that is not a lot of good representation in the community. And the space that y'all create, able to hold space to show that this is possible, this thing that's otherwise pretty difficult to talk about or stigmatized, or that the Desi community does normally talk about, I think is
Talk about,
really, really
yeah.
powerful. Yeah. So what has been your experience being somebody who talks about these things, being somebody who talks about stigma inside of
Yeah.
the Desi culture?
Well, so I'm married to mental health. So that's already like a big thing. Okay, I'm married to a mental health
I love that.
professional. And both of us strongly, believe in mental health is health and it should be
Mm.
taken care of appropriately, just as your physical health. Um, so generally, it depends on the generations. I will say that the older generation is kind of like, if you're going to do it, just do it quietly. Like, why are you so loud
Mm.
and proud about, kind of that vibe? Other than my parents are super proud of me. Like, they're like, so my dad's never drank a drop of alcohol in his entire life. And my mom has like cut out most alcohol at this point too. And I feel like some of that is my own inspiration for her. She was never a heavy drinker in the first place. But my parents are really proud because they're like, you're going to have an impact. So they believe in using your voice to make an impact. I would say that others in the generation, maybe not so much. They're just like, you're just kind of loud about it. Like, okay. But then
She turn
I think
turn the volume
that
down a little bit.
turn the volume down, girl. My generation is, it's a very big split, I will say. There are a lot of people who are like, hey, I kind of like what you're doing. I'm inspired by it. I kind of want to explore this a little bit. And I love that you're doing this. And then there's people who feel very, very judged and very like, yeah, that's you, girl. Like, you do you kind of vibe. But honestly, I think you learn in this field and as an influencer, as someone with a voice, that like you can't listen to the noise. You just got to keep sharing your truth, because even if 1 to 2 people come back and they're like, hey, thank you so much. Like, your story really helped me go sober. You've done your job. And that's why I choose to share, is because I've sat in that other chair where I sat there feeling judged and internalizing other people's sobriety and feeling like making excuses for myself and being stuck in this vicious cycle of dependency. And if I saw one brown person at that time, maybe, just maybe, it would have happened sooner. And really, it was Hita Palepu, who is a content creator. She's the one who recommended that book on January 2nd, and I bought it right away. Seeing her say, hey, I'm doing dry January, inspired me, because, oh, wow, like, hit that. Someone I look up to, another South Asian woman, is talking about dry January and that she has a poor relationship with alcohol at that time. And she's straight, she has an amazing relationship with alcohol now. And I think that just that one spark
Yeah.
of seeing that one brown person, it was a chain reaction.
Hmm. Well, and talking about your mom too, being in so much of what this is modeling for other people because
Yeah.
again, when we are raised in a larger, especially specifically American culture, not everybody listening to this is in America, but there's a heavy drinking culture here. And when this is what we see growing up, this is what we see every day, this is where we see out in the world. It's not even a door that's open to us. But then when somebody sees you on your Mamajotes account talking about this, or your mom and your family see exploring this and all the good that's coming out from the other side, it's really interesting to watch the change in our relationships in real time, and the people who I still to this day, I got a message from somebody I haven't talked to in probably 15 years, being, and it's like a friend of my brother's. Like, I don't even really know this person. And they're,
Yeah.
hey, I've been watching what you're doing and I wanted to tell you I don't drink anymore. I'm like, what? Mind
Yeah.
blown that this person who I like didn't even know follows my Instagram account still. I haven't talked to in 15 years, sees somebody else doing something differently. And think of Holly, that was really my entryway into this, was watching Holly
Yeah.
when she was back doing hips for her book even was written, but just seeing her do this in a way that I could see myself doing it in, and realizing like, oh, well, if she can do it, I can probably do it. And the ripple effect that that has, I think, but coming back to the Sober Daisy, that the specific visibility of that community and being able to show other your community, like, we can do this. This is possible. Here's somebody who relates to you on a lot of people, and this is the way I do it.
Yeah.
One
There's
of
so many.
the
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Amazing. No, I was just saying how amazing it is that like there's so many people out there now sharing their stories. And I love how much color is being added to the sober world. And we had our
Yeah.
own South Asian panel this year.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw that. So that
Yeah.
was really cool.
Sober Voices. Yeah, yeah. I saw that.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And I really appreciate what Sober Voices is doing specifically to really diversify the field and to elevate. Again, it's pretty wide out there, and I will say that as a white woman. One of the things that I think is really interesting, that as we are kind of on the cusp of changing this narrative around alcohol and who can and can't be a person who chooses to remove it from their lives, is that there's still a lot of pushback. And I experienced on my platform, but I know you posted recently about somebody saying that the way you share is harmful to somebody else who is an alcoholic or in alcoholism.
Yeah.
What has it been like for you sharing your non-traditional experience with being sober, removing alcohol? And I say non-traditional, and like, we've always done it one, people are starting to do it another
Yeah.
way. What has that experience been like for you?
Honestly, I think it's been eye-opening to see how many different journeys people have and how many different levels of alcoholism and alcohol use disorder there are, truly. And yeah, some people feel like I'm taking away from their experience because I'm sharing mine, but I always tell people, don't invalidate my experience
Yeah,
because it doesn't match your own. My
right.
experience is still valid because that's what I'm on here to do. I'm on here to share my experience. Yes, do I bring on other voices to share theirs? Absolutely. But everyone's experience looks different, and in no ways is that meant to take away from anyone else's
Yeah,
experience, right? Like, just because I had a c-section giving birth and had a specific experience doesn't mean your vaginal birth wasn't any different, you know what I mean, or wasn't
yeah,
like this. Like, it's we all had a baby in the
right.
end, and it's the same. It's the same, but it's different, and that's
Right.
what I'm like trying to bring out there. And I think it's so important because people think you have to hit rock bottom still. Like, people
Yeah.
think like, hey, I'm not drinking in the morning, I haven't lost my job, I'm not homeless, I haven't like given up my entire life for alcohol, so I'm fine. But like,
Mm,
what if you can catch yourself before all that happens? Like, what if you can catch yourself before you hit rock bottom? Because I promise you, if I kept drinking due to like in the way that I was with my depression and my anxiety, like,
yeah.
I'm on Zoloft. Like, if
Mhm.
I'm drink, it literally says not to drink without medication.
Yeah.
Like, if I kept drinking, like maybe I would have lost everything. But do I want to
Mm,
live to see that? Like, I don't want to live to see that. And
mm,
not everyone has the same support circle. Not everyone has a supportive spouse that, is going to stand by them. Not everybody has parents who are going to be like, yeah, dude, loud and proud. And I understand that. And I fully understand that. And everyone's situation is completely different. And their reason for drinking is completely different. But my reasoning for being on there is to share my story, because I know, and I have learned from experience this last year, there are so many people sitting in the position that I was sitting in December of 2020.
yeah.
And that's who I'm trying to reach out to, and whoever it inspires. And if it doesn't inspire you, well, okay, there's someone else
Mhm.
there that will.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think you learn on this in this world of influencing that. I feel like such a dick when I say that. I'm such an influence.
I
Like,
gotcha.
I feel like you learn in this world that, like, you're not meant for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody's going to like you, and that's
Yeah.
okay. That's
Well,
not
and
my
I think with
job.
I think this idea of different stories and different ways of doing this, my take on it is like a rising tide lifts all ships. When one person is healthier, then the collective is healthier. And if that person gets to it a different way than I do, that's cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I think that we're starting to get a shift in this narrative. But I love your C-section analogy, because I also had two C-sections. So I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
girl, that speaks to me, especially because there's that's a whole different
A
debate in its
whole
own,
other realm.
whole
When
can of
people
worms
like,
over
"Did you
there.
have, like, a normal
Yeah.
delivery?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"You mean vaginal?"
Yeah. And they're like, oh, you didn't give
Like,
birth. And I have two human children to show for it. So I think I did. Also, I had like, yeah, we could talk about that
we
forever.
could talk about that all day.
Yeah. I want to talk more about specifically parenting and sobriety and what it looked like for you before you quit drinking and what it looks like now, because I have my own, a lot of thoughts on that. And I would love to hear yours.
I have a lot of thoughts on that. I have a lot of thoughts. Well, like, we'll go back to the breastfeeding and how it all started.
Mhm.
It's like you're sober for 9 months, and then you're like, can I, my question at the doctor is nothing baby related. And it's like, hey, so can I have alcohol while I breastfeed? Like, how much can I have? Like, so much thought
Mhm.
process, and like, breast milk test strips for your alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, for your breast milk to see how much alcohol is in there. Like, what? Like,
Mhm.
investing in that, like spending $28 on that is insane. Um, and yeah, like, I felt like such a badass drinking my wine and breastfeeding my baby. And I look back and I feel like an idiot sometimes, and it's
Mm.
like, how hard would it have been just to not drink for 5 months just to give my baby the purest possible? I'm over here like watching what I'm eating. Oh,
Yeah.
like I want to eat the right foods for like the right breast milk, but yet, um,
Hmm.
I think that is one aspect. And the other was like carelessness. I felt like a careless parent with those babies. And I'm so
Mm.
happy that they're well. I don't know, just the aspect of like letting them see me tipsy, not drunk per se, but like, oh, that's mommy's wine.
Yeah.
I did a lot of that, and play dates with champagne and mimosas, like I said, and every aspect of life having alcohol invited. And I'm so glad that they were so young and
Mm.
they don't
Yeah.
remember any of that part of life, because I think that if I continued doing that into their young life, I was just setting the example. And
Mm.
with addiction, like, I just feel like, why would I set them up like that? Are they not going to drink? No, I'm almost sure they're going to drink. Like, they're going to go through their own waves. I'm not like, I'm not naive. Like, I know
Yeah.
my kids are going to like do all the things. And I just hope that, and I'm not saying that alcohol is the worst thing in the world for them. I'm not going to tell them they're not allowed. I'm going to just share, just like I share with everybody else, my own experience with it when they're old enough. Like, hey, this is what I did. This is what happened with me. And I'd like you to be careful, but like, you're going to make your own mistakes. I think that it is healthy though for them to see that there's no alcohol at their birthday parties. I'm not catering alcohol to, like, Karina's having her first birthday party in July. And normally I probably would have had a mimosa bar. Okay. I
Mhm.
would have gone all out with the puns on that one, but I'm not, I'm having toast non-alcoholic rosé available for the
Mm.
adults. Like, I'm having, it's a kid party.
Yeah.
There's juice boxes and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but we usually have booze with them, and that's what's so wild.
Yeah.
You step out of the matrix and you're like, "What the fuck are we doing at kids'
Yes.
parties getting
Why are
drunk?"
there drunk adults in the bouncer? Get the drunk adults out of the bouncer. When you
Yeah,
become
yeah.
sober, you look back at your childhood a little bit because you're sober in childhood. And
Yeah.
there's a big correlation between adult sobriety and childhood sobriety because I remember watching my like uncles get like wasted at like weddings and just be like all weird on the dance floor. And you were always like weirded out by the drunk uncle, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone was weirded out by the drunkle.
The
And
drunkle,
we're
yeah.
gonna call him the drunkle. And there were several of those. And it was never my own parents because my dad didn't drink. So I was always
Mm.
weirded out by the drunkle. And now as like a grown adult who's sober, I'm again weirded out by the drunkles. Because now we're
I'm
the uncles
still
and the
I know.
aunts.
I'm still laughing at, like, get the drunk out of the bounce house because it's so true. It's killing me. That's so true. But, we just we're so used to it. We're so socialized. But one of the things that you said about just being present or not being present in their early childhood with alcohol really resonates with me. My older son, Will, who's actually homesick on the other side of the couch over there, but he was 2. And early motherhood's really when my alcohol use escalated. And my younger son, Max, is 3. So I've been sober since he's been around. I
Oh
got
my
sober before
god.
then. And it's really interesting to compare my experiences in motherhood with both of those. And it was really hard both times. Early motherhood's really hard. But the ability and the time that comes to mind for me is always bedtime and thinking about all of the times that I rushed through bedtime with my
You
older
have your
son
wine.
to get back to my glass of wine, to finish the book early, to sing the song short, whatever it was. I was always
Oh,
I
it
could be
hurts my heart.
I know, and I could be there,
So
but
relatable.
elsewhere. Yeah, my mind was
Yeah.
elsewhere, and that almost it's like yeah, you don't have to have rock bottom, but like that itself, but like the soul crushing of that
But
is so real.
Beth, everyone's rock bottom is so different. Like maybe that was
Yeah,
yours. Do you know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
that's the thing. It's like your soul was crushed at that moment when you
Mhm,
realized that. And that's like one reason. Like I don't really we're not having a third baby, but like
mhm,
one reason that like we did one of the pros was like to experience motherhood
mhm,
fully sober from the start.
mhm.
Like I just think it's awesome that you got to experience that
Mm. Yeah,
because a lot of
it's
women
still
don't.
hard though, man. I
Oh,
we
it's
thought we
still
were gonna
hard. Might
we
be
thought we were gonna
actually.
have 3. Yeah, we thought we were gonna have 3
Me
and
too.
two's fine.
Two's
Two's
plenty.
fine. Yeah.
Two's plenty of children.
You were talking about, I didn't have to have this rock bottom, think I had to lose everything and we have this very confused. Do you watch Euphoria?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So I was watching it last night with my husband and Lexi's mom. I told my husband, I was like, that's why I quit drinking because turned into Cassie and Lexi's mom,
Yeah.
like 1,000%. Like the mom who's like passed out on the couch, who like thinks she's cool at her kids' parties because she's drunk and
Letting
giving them.
them drink. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what you said about like my kids are gonna make their own decisions. I know that. But they are growing up seeing somebody in their life who doesn't drink alcohol. And we've had conversations with my older son about dad drinks alcohol, mom doesn't. This is objectively what it is and what it does to your bodies. And some people choose to drink it and other people don't. And totally realistic. Like my husband and I both have tattoos too. So I'm like, I'm 1,000% sure my
Oh,
kids are
yeah.
gonna get tattoos. And like I'm not gonna be able to stop that. And I can't have a good reason, but I'll be like, mom and dad got tattoos in their 30s. So you have to wait too. But but just like I'm realistic about what my children are gonna
I was
do.
18 when I got my
Okay.
tattoo, so I have like no leverage here.
And you know what? And I think that like I'm really realistic about what my kids are gonna grow up and do, and they're gonna do all the things that every teenager does, and they're probably gonna do the opposite of what I tell them to do anyway. But just the fact that your kids and my kids have somebody in their life who just opts out and doesn't have this as part of their life, that the thing that's like gonna stick in their brains for the rest of their life is like enough for me to
Yeah.
continue doing this. and I didn't get sober for my kids. I got sober for myself, but
Right.
staying sober for my kids is one of the reasons that I do it.
Oh, I love that. 100%. I love that. You're setting the example of the life that you lived,
Yeah.
that you wanna live, that you
Yeah.
think they should live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. We wrap up. The last question I always ask the guests on Sober Stories is, if your story, you and alcohol, were to be a book, what would it be titled and what kind of book would it be?
I think I would call it Like a Mother,
Mm.
and, literally focus in on, like, talking about, like, motherhood and sobriety, because that's been such a big part of it, and
Yeah.
it's hard as hell, you guys. Motherhood is
Yeah.
hard as hell, and it alcohol people think alcohol makes it easier, but I am telling you it makes it harder. Like, it makes it so much harder, and learning to deal with motherhood sober and not have to be like, "Oh, I just need a glass of wine," or, "Oh, I just need a
Mhm.
drink after this crazy day." Not letting my kids be a reason that I drink.
Mm.
Actually, and like you just said, being a reason that I don't drink. I don't know, I
Yes.
just like the title.
Yeah.
Actually, I might
No,
make
I
it like
love
a
it.
show. I'm just kidding.
Mother, it makes me, there's like an
But
arm
I
emoji.
honestly have already started, like, writing my story, like, I do see myself publishing a book about my sobriety journey in the future, and how it's, like, cultural, and
Yeah.
about the motherhood aspect and everything. Like, I just feel like it's like I said before, like, seeing yourself, like, seeing someone who looks like you tell their
Yeah.
story means so much. So as much as I respect Holly and I love hearing Holly's story, I want to hear a South Asian woman's story about sobriety,
Yeah.
because and it's going to, I'm willing to share that on my own story, and like make that a
Mm.
book one day. So,
Beautiful. Well, you heard it here first. Like a mother.
you heard it here
I'll let you,
first.
yeah, I'll let you take a break from the book you already just wrote, but I
Yeah.
really look forward to
Once
reading
that's
this
done.
story. Yeah, once that's done. All right, Jyoti. Well, this has just been amazing. I relate to so much of what you said, and I really, really also respect the space you hold for Southeast Asian women, and just the heart with which you put into all your content. And we didn't talk about any of that, but like, if you want some like relatable parenthood content, you need to
Yay.
go follow her page. But I know our people are going to want to connect with you to learn more about you and your story. So where can they find you? Do you have any projects in the works? Give us all the details.
Okay, so you can find me on Mamajotes, Mamajotes. That is my handle on everything. TikTok, got the TikTok, got the Twitter, got the YouTube, Instagram, all that fun stuff. If you're local to Chicago, hit me up, DM me. Whenever
For
know we'll be
now,
doing
though.
it for
Yeah,
now.
you
For
said you're
now,
moving, right?
yeah, but not till 2025 or something like that. My husband's gonna be like,
Okay.
"You're just like planning stuff without me at this point."
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
and then any projects, I have this book that I am that I wrote, just like whatever. But actually the book it's about mental health, and it actually has a
Mm.
lot of alcohol in it,
Awesome.
teen alcohol use in it. So um that is with HarperCollins, and I don't have an exact publishing date yet because it just hasn't happened. But I will get that out to you soon. Mostly on
Beautiful.
Instagram, you guys. Come to
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah, it's some good content over there on Instagram, and I like dabble in the TikTok, so I'll go over there too. But this has just been
Yay!
so wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, and I really truly believe that somebody's going to hear this who needs to hear this and see themselves in your own story. So, Jyoti, thank you so much for joining us here on Sober Stories. And y'all go follow Jyoti and connect with her. Keep an eye out for her future book and Like a Mother whenever it comes out, however long it takes from now. But I hope you have a rest of your day.